Hello there, welcome back and welcome to part 5 in this build log series of my 1 to 350 scale model of Mauretania. Today I am pretty much following on where I left off in the last episode, and I am doing the other side of the hull, drilling out all of the portholes, and I will then move on to filling various portholes that I didn't drill, removing bits of detail that I don't want, and hopefully crafting a bit of detail that I do want, which is not currently existing on the hull. So that's what's coming up today. Without any further ado, let's crack on. Right, I thought I'd just do a quick demonstration of what I'm actually doing here. So obviously we've got a drill with a really keen drill bit, and if your drill starts being a bit stiff, what you can do is you can pull this top bit off, sort of expose the bearing underneath, and I tend to put a little bit of oil, don't need very much, and it just sort of lubricates the thing as oil tends to do. But if you've never done this before, you will be amazed how much more smooth the drill works after that. So what I'm doing, I'm left-handed, so I tend to do the holding with my left hand because that's more stable, and then I do the twisting with my right. So I put a couple of fingers underneath the workpiece, get the drill into the hole, and then I put my thumb on the bearing, like so. So you're sort of sandwiching the drill with fingers underneath the workpiece, fingers on top of the drill, and then it's just a case of actually twisting the drill, and because this is nice and sharp, it'll cut very easily. Obviously, hope it goes without the saying, make sure your finger underneath isn't in the direct sight of the drill, otherwise you will hurt yourself. And it's quite easy once you've got one, just to sort of reposition the drill and move on like so. And you just carry on like this. A couple of things to watch out for. Make sure you're drilling, you're actually like centered in the hole before you go. Make sure that the workpiece is at the angle you want it. Make sure the workpiece isn't sort of tilted over like that, because your portholes will look like they're sort of cutting upwards through the hull, which obviously would not look very good. Just stuff like that. Obviously try wherever possible to keep the drill as straight as possible, because you minimise the chances of cracking and snapping the drill, which is not hard to do with a drill of this size. Now, the last thing I want to show before I go back onto time-lapse is me drilling a hole which is not cut into the hull already. So here's one. So with all the other holes, with the holes which are pre-existing embossed into the hull, it's quite easy because you put the drill in and whatever you do, the drill doesn't really, it can't escape from the hole, it's sort of stuck in there. It's got a guide. When you're drilling a hole that doesn't exist on the hull, but I'm drilling for accuracy, the drill's much more likely to sort of wibble and wobble around, so you've got to be a bit more careful. So what you can do is centre punch first to create a sort of indentation before drilling. I have found that's not necessary because this drill is extremely sharp and the plastic is very soft. But what I've been doing is just starting out extremely gently, and within literally one turn I've got about as deeper indentation as you would have in the hull from the existing portholes. And from there, once you've got that indentation, you can just drill normally with the confidence that your drill is not going to slip. And there you go, we've got a hole that's in perfect line with the rest of the holes in the hull. So there you go, that's how I'm doing it. It does get a bit repetitive, this, so I would suggest regular hydration and also just taking some breaks and doing something else, because it is pretty dull, and ultimately you want to be enjoying the modelling, you don't want to be sort of slogging through it, so breaks and so on. Anyway, enough of that, I shall go back into time-lapse. So the last little thing we need to do is, as you can see, the inside of these holes have got lots of breakout, and that's just from the drill pushing its way through. So you could use a countersink bit. What I'm doing, just because it's a bit easier, is I'm getting a slightly larger drill bit. This is a bit larger, though it's not huge. What's this? 4mm, and I'm just literally just rubbing it on the edge of the hole basically, and that just has the effect, because this is nice and sharp, it just shaves off all of those unwanted pieces. And it makes the hole nice and clean on the inside, which is very important. Right, so that's all of the portholes drilled out now. As you can see, we've got a nice ship full of portholes, and on the other side we've got nice smooth cuts as well. Very little tear out, very little sort of evidence of the drill sort of bursting through the plastic. So that's really good. These holes are now ready to have fibres installed into them for the lighting. Of course, we're not going to do that yet because we need to address all of the inaccuracies on the outside of the hull. We need to get the hull glued together. We then need to paint the hull, and that's all before we can do the fibres. So there's quite a lot of work before we get on to lighting. And so the next part of this video is going to be the start of just redressing some of these little errors on the hull. Well, I say errors, they're not errors because this is obviously a model of Lusitania that I am converting. So let's say inaccuracies or something like that. So I need to fill quite a lot of holes. There's a fair few portholes that I didn't drill because they were present on Lusitania that weren't on Mauretania. So I need to fill those up so that you can't be seen. All of the doors on this hull have portholes in. I'm going to fill those as well. The anchor hawsepipes are a different shape on Lusitania to Mauretania, so they need to be rectified. There's a door that needs to be removed from each side of the hull, so there's a fair few little jobs to be getting on with. Doubt I'll get them all done in this episode because I want to publish this before Christmas and I'm probably not going to get through the whole lot, but we'll see what we get up to. Right, door removal now, because this door wasn't on Mauretania. And the way I've decided to do this is to file relatively aggressively in the area and just accept that I'm going to lose some of that hole detail, which I'll then have to replace at a later date, probably in about 5 minutes. So you're sort of taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back because you're removing the door, but you are also removing some detail. There we go, all gone. And a good test is to rub your finger over, just see if you can feel anything. Because when you paint this, any sort of little nubs of plastic that you've left will be quite obvious. But I can't feel a thing, so that is all done. Right, first things first, this model has a sort of thing on here, which I'm just marking up. It looks like a sort of cover for a hawsepipe or some sort of thing like that. Anyway, Mauretania didn't have it, So it is going, and I'm just going to file this off with these trusty needle files, which so far have been very useful. As always, before I actually go and remove any material, I have marked it, because otherwise you just know that at some point you'll make a mistake and you'll remove the wrong bit of plastic, and then you'll realise it afterwards and you'll go, balls. So it's worth marking these things up just to stop you from committing a bit of a blunder. The lovely noise of filing. Getting there. Nice little suggestion someone gave me in the comments is to add some additional ink around the outside, and once you've filed it down to a degree that it's all level, the ink surrounding the piece you're filing will also get taken away. Nice idea. Gives you a good gauge. So you see we're almost there at the top, not quite there at the bottom. That's one side, just need to do the other. Now then, the next thing is that Mauretania's hawsepipes, where the main anchors were stowed, were quite a different shape to Lusitania. You can see that Lusitania's ones were quite large circular affairs, whereas Mauretania's, if we just have a look at this book, really not so, sort of almost triangular. So obviously this needs to be replicated on the model as well. Now, to start with, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go along with a craft knife and remove this sort of exposed rim. And because I'm going to fill later, it doesn't really matter if I remove a little bit too much material. Obviously, I'm not going to aim to do that, but it's not the end of the world if I do. So I've been thinking about how I'm going to get these hawsepipes corrected, and I have drawn up a few ideas in the plastic. But I actually think the best thing to do is probably to fill the whole thing over and just start from a plain hull again. So I'm going to use this putty here, which is just a sort of plastic modelling putty. And I'm going to fill this entire hull, and then we're going to start to craft the shape. So just before I fill the hull, I'm just scoring the underside, because what this gives is a nice rough surface for that putty to stick into. Makes it far more likely that the putty will actually stay there. So we'll let that dry, and then I'll come back and sand it down later.
So in this clip I am just going over and I am filling all of the portholes which are not required on this model. So that's all the portholes on the gangway doors, and it's also all the portholes that were cast into the plastic of the hull, which are not required for this model. So I'm just going along with the same resin I used on the hawsepipes, and I am just filling up those holes with it and then smoothing off the surface later. This is a fairly straightforward process. I imagine what is going to happen is that this putty will shrink a little bit as it cures, so I will not be at all surprised if I have to revisit these at a later date, after a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days, once it's fully cured, and just top up those hole fillings to make sure that the portholes are completely obscured. But this is a fairly straightforward process.
Right, porthole filling. What I've done, I started out this by using these sort of wooden sort of coffee stirring sticks, I suppose, and it wasn't brilliant. So what I've done instead is I've produced my own little tool, which is a very thin piece of plastic, which incidentally definitely does not come off a packet of toothbrushes. You can make modelling tools out of anything. So this is good because it's nice and thin, so it's about the height of a deck, so it fits in between the hull plating, but it's nice and flexible, so it bonds itself to the shape of the hull, which is very good for scraping. So I'm just going to get a little bit of this putty stuff onto the edge of the scraper, and then up to a porthole. I've got far too much of the putty, so that was a mistake, so I'll get rid of some of that. And this doesn't seem to work first time. You've got to sort of work it in, you know? That's the way. Motorway. That's good. So I'm just sort of scraping it in a few different directions, and there we go. We've got that nice now. And what I'll do is I'm just going to run my finger very nicely and gently over the top, and that has the effect of sort of wiping the excess putty off, but the stuff in the porthole remains undamaged. And then there you go. You see, that's 4 portholes in fact, completely filled. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we'll move on to others. There's another one at the top. So we'll do that now as well. And what I'll do is I'll zoom in a bit more so you get a better idea. Really do need to work on my camera work. It's not very easy. It's not very good. Again, I've got far too much putty on the old stick, so wipe the vast majority of it off. And then I'm just going to coming back like that over the top. And there we go. And there you have it. Another porthole nicely filled. Right, there you go. That is all of the material that I have filmed. So I can't show it anymore because there's nothing more to show. We're up to a point where most of the portholes are filled. The hawse pipes are filled, but are awaiting the surgery required to get them into the shape of Mauretania. All the detail that we don't want has been removed from the hull. So the next step is to change up these hawse pipes, cut out the right shape. I need to restore a little bit of the detail in the hull where I have filed things down. I need to sort of add hull plating detail back in. I'm going to need to go and refill some of the portholes that I have filled because the putty has indeed shrank a little bit. So if we put paint on it now, it's still going to look like there's portholes there, so we just need to do that as well. And then it's a case of doing a final check before we actually glue the thing together. And once it's glued together, I will be able to tackle a couple of other little jobs. I'll need to put the propeller wings on, and I also want to tackle the shape of the stern, because of course the stern of Mauretania was a different shape to Lusitania, and in fact Mauretania was, in this scale, about 3mm longer. So we'll be doing a few little corrective activities there as well, all to come after Christmas. So I hope this was informative, interesting. If you have enjoyed it, do please like and or subscribe. If you haven't enjoyed it, do please like and or subscribe. Any questions, comments, what have you, bung them down below. Incidentally, all the materials I use are in the description as well, so do check that out. I haven't really used any materials in this video other than the putty, but that is in the description below, so if you're interested in where I got that, go and have a look. And I shall see you in the next one. Bye for now.